Top of the morning, everybody. So, oh, that was loud. So, recently I had a comment asking about the syrup that goes on buñuelos. Now, they didn't request a recipe video, but here we are. So, I am going to show you guys how I make the syrup that goes with buñuelos. On a side note, I always do that. On a side note, my growing up, we just preferred the cinnamon sugar coating. I think that's because we had plenty of that. And my grandmother was the only one that really liked the syrup, so she would make it from time to time. I'm going to riff off of her recipe, which really didn't have measurements. She would just add piloncillo, cinnamon sticks, a pinch of salt. Sometimes she would add orange zest if there were oranges, and sometimes she would add the clavo, the cloves. But someone in my family didn't like cloves, so she kind of would leave it out. And then when people just kind of stopped choosing the syruped buñuelos, she just was like, okay, you guys, I'll just do cinnamon and sugar. But I did think it was tasty, so I'm going to kind of put my spin on that. And you guys know, with most of my recipes, especially when it comes to preference, tastes and preferences are very personal. But anyways, hopefully this helps you. And to my commenter, thank you for that comment. I'm going to show footage from my already posted buñuelo video for the dough, but let me show you how I do the syrup as well. Okay, so for the syrup, I'm going to be using anise seeds. Here I have some cloves and allspice berries. I'm also going to add like 2 to 3 cinnamon sticks. I have 1 vanilla pod that I will be adding. I have piloncillo. This is around a pound of piloncillo, and I will be using the zest of the orange. I'm going to time lapse this. And you'll want to be sure to peel the pith. It's that white stuff that's on the inside of the peel that gets really bitter. So you want to make sure you just kind of scrape and cut that out, just so that you end up with the orange zest. We want this aromatic and sweet, not bitter. So my zest is done, and as you can see, I did the best I could. And I'm also going to use the juice of this large navel orange. So I'm just going to squeeze that right into my cup. For the allspice berries, anise, and cloves, I added like 20 allspice berries, 20 cloves, and a teaspoon of the anise seeds. Here in a large, shallow pan, I'm adding the orange juice with water mix. That's about 4 cups. My zest, the piloncillo. I'm also going to toss in 3 cinnamon sticks, the little bag of allspice berries, anise, and cloves. Turn the heat on. And before I forget, I'm also going to add the vanilla pods. And you just want to dissolve the piloncillo, give it a mix, and bring it up to a simmer. So the piloncillo has dissolved and my liquid is simmering. By the way, I also added a 1/4 teaspoon of salt to this. Combine it and just let it reduce. And it has reduced by half at this point, so I'm going to remove all of the aromatics and just let it continue simmering until it thickens. The simmer time or cook time will vary. Okay, so it has thickened. I am going to shut the heat off, give it a stir, and I'm going to let this cool. And if it coats the back of your spoon, that is a good consistency. Okay, so now for the dough. I'm going to let last year Angelica explain the tea part.
Okay, so first I'm going to make a tea. Here I have 1.5 cups of water. I've added it to a small pot, and I'm going to turn on the heat and add 1 teaspoon of whole anise seeds, and I'm also going to add 1 cinnamon stick. I'm going to bring the water up to a boil and let it boil for about 2 to 3 minutes. Then I'm going to shut off the heat and allow it to steep for about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so after it has steeped, I'm going to basically strain out the seeds and the cinnamon stick, and whatever I'm left with is going to be the liquid I use for my dough. And you should end up with right at 1 cup of liquid. And this is going to add great flavor to the dough for these buñuelos.
Aw, last year I was so sick with bronchitis. Anyways, So here I have 3 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, give it a mix. Now I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of shortening or lard, it's up to you. Give that a mix. And then little by little, I'm going to add my cinnamon anise seed tea, around a cup. You're going to give it a mix, and once the dough comes together, knead for about 10 minutes or until it becomes smoother. Then I'm going to divide it into dough balls. If you want large buñuelos, make the dough balls larger, small, smaller. Now I'm going to let this rest for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then once they've rested, I'm going to start rolling them out. And I like to roll them out and hang them on the side of the bowl. Okay, so I have my dough rolled out. I have my dough hanging out on the side of the bowl. I'm going to be using this dish to put the cooked ones in. And here's my cook oil coming up to temperature, and there's the rest of my rolled out dough. And there are my kids. My house is a mess. Okay, so now it's time to fry these. And I almost burnt my fingers here. Look at this. This really could have turned out badly. But then my ancestors told me, mija, no, tonta. I almost burnt my finger. So anyways, be careful. And I'm just going to fry these until they are golden brown on each side. And if you see those air pockets, kind of pop them and flatten them. That gives you a more consistent, flat buñuelo. It cooks a lot more evenly. So once it's done, it's crispy and golden brown, I'm just going to place them in that large baking dish. I added a paper towel at the bottom, but that's that. So once these have cooled and my syrup has cooled, it's time to dredge and coat these. They're done. This is probably gonna look horrible angle for me, but whatever. So good. So I hope that answers your question for those of you that wanted buñuelos with the miel or the syrup. And it really does make a difference. Crunchy buñuelo, let it cool. Reduce your syrup until it's thick and it can kind of coat the back of your spoon. And if you want to reduce it further, you can. But it really makes a difference to really reduce it and rid of a watery consistency. Because as you can see, I've filmed, I did pictures, I was doing thumbnail shots, and it really maintains the texture, the crunchiness of your buñuelo. It really is important. Now, if you do dunk these right out of the oil, it could probably stay crispy if you reduce the syrup, but it makes it a lot more convenient if you let the syrup cool and you just make all your buñuelos and kind of stack them, because if you're using your hands, you're going to burn your fingers. So either way, crunch test, past that, and that's what you want. You want crispy, just aromatic, flavorful buñuelos, and the tea and the dough makes a difference in the flavor. You don't have to do that. I've had buñuelos where it's just literally flour, water. Some people add like ground cinnamon to it, But if you take your time with the dough, your end result, it'll really be good. The same thing with the syrup. You want to make sure you reduce it. And it just match made in heaven. So, Vlogmas. This is day 5. 12 days of Vlogmas. I am really tired, gonna be honest, but this is really fun. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye.